Hello, we are starting week 6, I believe, and week 6 has worksheet 5 located in it. In this section, we discuss inequalities, which we've discussed several times in this course. But as you're working through statistics, I hope you're seeing now where you're having to compare values to determine if something's unusual. Also, you're going to be using this in section 6.1 and 6.2 in your statistics, where you have to know some different concepts. So we've placed a table here for your inequalities to describe anything that talks about not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, and we've given you some examples on the right, so be sure to read through this. There's some reminders here. The opening always goes towards the larger value. The point is towards the smaller value. And then remember also, it helps when comparing values to make both values have the same number of digits. So for instance, when comparing 0.0531 to 0.03, you need to be sure to put zeros on the end so that these values will have the same number of decimal places. Now, you have some problems here that they want you to compare. When I grade this, I'm going to be checking that you've placed the zeros at the end to make them the same place value, same number of digits, and then I'm going to be checking for your inequality symbols. So please make sure that you include your zeros. So for instance, on A in your practice, you should have 0.230 and 0.025, and then you place the inequality symbol to make it true. So you've got a couple of those problems that you're working with, and then also we discussed the concept of unusual that you're using in statistics, so be sure to read that. The next thing is, we've used this as we've gone along in the course, is they're wanting you to convert from frequency to relative frequency. And we've done this many times. Remember, you're going to find the total of your frequencies. That'll be your total. And then to find the relative frequency, you're going to take your amount divided by the total, and you're going to write it down. Now, in this particular problem, what I want you to do is make sure you round to 3 decimal places, okay? So this should have 3 decimal places. I'm gonna write this. So round 3 decimal places for every one of these. Okay, so you're going to complete your relative frequency table, and then what they're going to do is ask you to estimate the probability that a randomly selected individual uses public transportation to commute to work. Notice, here's public transportation. Whatever value you come up with, you're going to write that down, but please pay attention. It says to interpret the results. That means you need to tell me what this means. You can convert it to percent and then interpret. That'll be fine, but write down the interpretation. And then on part C, notice it says review the table and determine if any category results in an unusual outcome. Remember, unusual is when your probability is less than 0.05. So when you get this relative frequency table completed, you're going to see if there's any values that are less than 0.05. Okay, so that means, since I told you to round 3 decimal places here, you want to write the 0.05 as 0.050 and then compare. Now notice, it says make a list of the unusual categories. So first of all, compare them, find which ones are less than 0.05, and then make a list down here, write down everything that is less than 0.05. Okay, the next thing is in some of your problems in section 6.1 in statistics, you're using some terminology that talks about exactly, at least one, greater than, at most, fewer, less, all these different concepts. So what we've done, we've written down some examples for you. If it talks about something's at least, say 2, that means the least number in your group is 2, so it would be 2 or more. Okay, so like in this particular one, notice it says X would have to be greater than 2. That's what at least means. So it's greater than or equal to 2. Notice greater than or equal to, it means the same thing. Or if it says n or more, that means the same thing. And then at most means the most in my group is whatever n is. And so when you go to write that, you say x is less than or equal to n. And then fewer is less than, and then more is greater than. Okay. Now in statistics, it helps to translate your statements. So sometimes you're given some statements that look like this: spend at most $15 on lunch. That means the most you can spend is 15. So you could spend anywhere from 15 or less. So notice that's how you would write this: x is less than or equal to 15. Read through all these examples and look at the inequalities or equations that's written over on the right. Okay, the next page. Now, they have given you a probability distribution, okay? And in this problem, this is the last, next to the last page. They've given you probability distribution. It says a probability distribution is a description that gives the probability for each value of a random variable. It's often expressed in the form of a table, graph, or formula. So in our particular one, it's a table. Okay. Now remember, there's 2 requirements for a probability distribution. All your probabilities have to add up to 1, and all your probabilities have to be between 0 and 1. And this table works for that. So what you're going to do is use this table to come down and answer problems down here. So notice the first one said, what is the probability that a randomly selected rental unit has exactly 4 rooms? That means you're going to place whatever symbol means exactly. If you look back over here on this page, notice when we talk about exactly, that means an equal sign. Okay, so that means you would place an equal sign in there, and then you're going to go to your table and look up 4 and see what your probability is. Okay, in part E, what's the probability a randomly selected rental unit has at most 5 rooms? Come over here, look up at most. If you look up at most, you can see it's x is less than or equal to n. So that means in your box, you'll put less than or equal to 5. And then everything less than or equal to 5, you're going to come up here and add those together, the less than or equal to 5, and write it down in your box. So you're going to continue this process. Read these, turn your page over, use the translation words that we have here, place your symbols in the boxes, and then go ahead and use your table to answer questions. Now, the last thing we did is we made up a list of all the symbols that you've used in statistics. This is just kind of a help you. So notice you can see all the symbols so far that we've come up with that you've been using, and there's a few that may be used later on, but this is just to kind of help you. It's the very last page, so there's nothing you really do with it, but it's things to help you remember what your symbols represent. Have a good day and work hard.